We enter in what we call a time of remembrance. It's a time to tell story. And as we know, that's one of Bill's passions, was telling the story of the human heart, of the human adventure. And certainly Bill lived that. We'll have several people coming forward to speak, and so we begin with his daughter, Heidi.
Thank you. I come from a loud family. Our dinner conversations are always full of boisterous laughter. Papa was the quiet one of the bunch. He was observant and engaged, so when he did speak, it was typically something witty or profound. Throughout the years, he developed several phrases of fatherly wisdom, 3 of which I would like to share with you. All of you know what a talented photographer Papa was. My brother managed to follow in his footsteps, but I never took to it the same way. He did, however, teach me a little about understanding and appreciating the art. The one thing he said frequently was find the human element. When framing a landscape, he would try to look for an aspect of humanity in the scene, whether it was an old boat, a dirt road, or a forgotten shoe. This object would connect the viewer to the scene through something they could relate to. This philosophy went beyond just his art. It was part of his life mission. He always strove to find a way to connect with others, both in small and large ways, through photography and his day-to-day interactions. Whether he was in Africa sharing the story of the Maasai tribe, or anonymously paying for the lunch of servicemen at a nearby table, he found ways to support others, support other communities, both through his own actions and by inspiring others. We can all take a lesson from that. Most of you know that photography is not the most lucrative career, especially starting out. My brother and I learned early on the value of $1 and the importance of hard work. Shortly after my 16th birthday, my dad would wake me up in the morning singing "Get a Job" by the Silhouettes. I did. I got one. When the inevitable would happen and I would wreck the car, or a tree would break a window and we'd be faced with those large, unexpected expenses, Papa would always say, "It's only money." I've turned to this phrase a lot when facing the financial burdens of life. If at times they get overwhelming, I step back and I say, "It's only money," and then I get the strength to overcome the obstacle. My father was not an expert on home repair, but he was a dabbler. He used to fix up his cars and his motorcycle and remodel various areas of the house. He was more of an expert when it came to the complicated electronics he worked with. His philosophy for both was the same: don't force it. When trying to fix something or trying to get it to work, we often have the urge to shove it beyond its breaking point. I've encountered this form of unintentional self-destruction in aspects of my own life. There were times at school when I tried so hard to fit in that I lost parts of myself in the process. There have been relationships that weren't meant to be, that I had a hard time letting go of because they were almost right. When I stopped trying so hard to make things that weren't right work, I discovered paths to things and places and people that were. Life is not easy. Getting to where you want to be takes work, but you should never have to force it. Of course, there's many other wonderful nuggets of wisdom Papa has shared throughout his life, and I'm sure he's inspired many of you in different ways. Life without Papa is going to be very difficult. Before he left, he armed us with the strength to make it through. Find the human element. It's only money. Don't force it.
Speaking on behalf of Nora's side of the family, we invite Douglas to come forward.
We have an expression in Norway that at times like this, I believe is kind of appropriate. It is translated to us in English saying, people are with us as long as we remember them. And if that's the case, Bill will certainly be with us for many, many years to come. My brother Bill, my brother-in-law, first impressed me many years ago when he was dating and later marrying my sister as being artistic, but with an element of the avant-garde that made an impression on me, especially as his career took root and unfolded at Como Channel 4. I well remember numerous phone calls from my sister with an kind of an excitement in her voice saying, "You've got to watch Channel 4 tonight. Bill was out on a shoot with Kathy, and it's a knockout." I'm just so pleased that Bill found himself at Channel 4 with all of his colleagues who nurtured and created an environment for him professionally, and their camaraderie from which he could blossom and flourish as an artist. When we remember Bill Strothman in our family, certainly he was a Puget Sound boy. He was a Husky. He was a Cascadian par excellence. And I must also add that when we have conversations of him in the future, the first thoughts that will come rushing to my mind are simply stated, "Mighty are the men who wear the purple and the gold." And joyfully we welcome them into the victor's fold. And we will carve your name, Bill, in the Hall of Fame to preserve the memory of your devotion. And o'er the land, our loyal band will sing and play the glory of you, Bill Strothman, and that of our precious Washington forever.
Go Cougs. I'll invite Randy to come up to speak next.
Hi, everyone. In this kind of a time, family becomes very important, and I look out here and I see a variety of families. I see my family here that came in from Massachusetts, Texas, California, Michigan, Illinois. I'm from Pittsburgh and so forth. And I see Nora's family, and I know there's a big Lutheran family here, and I'm sure there's a Como family out there too. Raise your hands, Como. There's a big Como family out there. And they were very generous to us when we visited the station on Thursday and Friday. And then there's the Seattle family, which we've discovered since we've been here. People know about the incident. They admired Bill. And they were complete strangers, but they expressed their condolences. So there's a bigger Seattle family that's involved here, too, that may not be part of the families I mentioned previously. Okay, I brought two props with me. One is an umbrella. Nora knows why, right? And so does Lori. And a smartphone, okay? The umbrella, what does the umbrella mean to me? Well, I came to Portland last September. I wanted to see Portland. I'd heard all about Portland. And of course, the cousins came down to show me around. And Loretta has an encyclopedic knowledge of Portland, as a matter of fact, and Bill was the driver. Well, one of the first things that Bill did when I met up with them was he went to the trunk of his car and pulled out an umbrella. How appropriate is that for the Northwest, right? And he gave it to me, and I kept it the whole weekend. And I tried to return it at the end of the weekend, and he said, "No, keep it, keep it." So I took it back with me. And then I was packing 2 days ago, and sure enough, there was the umbrella. And I brought it back with me. And as we were touring downtown, including at the what is it, Chihuly Art Gallery, it was raining, and there was I and one of my cousins under the umbrella, and Bill was keeping us dry. He was keeping us dry. Nora asked me to speak because Bill and I sort of shared a profession, the storytelling profession. Bill we both did documentary films. Bill did news. I don't know how people do news. It's every day, it's fast, you gotta run and gun and come back and put the story together. But Bill and I had the luxury of working in documentary films and storytelling. And one of the characteristics of documentary filmmaking that the news doesn't necessarily share is that you have the chance to go out and scout the location in advance, check it out, figure out what's going on. I think the British call it a recce, a reconnoitering. So the reason I bring this up is because I'm imagining that Bill is up there scouting the location, reconnoitering the location, and he's got the story ready when we get up there. Okay. Why did I bring the smartphone? In today's world, when Bill and I and Como and so forth go out and do a story, we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment behind us and a multi-million-dollar system that broadcasts it, and a cruise, a very talented cruise behind us. But each one of us can tell a story with these things. I suggest you take these things more seriously, because as I was looking through photos that Loretta was showing me of Bill, it brought back memories that I didn't even know about the family. She was telling stories. So 20, 30, 40 years from now, what you capture on these things could be incredibly critical, important to you in terms of storytelling. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I say peace to you all, and peace to Bill.
And then on behalf of the Como family, I believe Dan Lewis will be coming forward. And he's sitting way in the back.
One of the things that Heidi mentioned, I can truly vouch for, that Bill might have been the quiet one. He definitely is quieter than Dan. Who, when he came to Como, we all welcomed him with open arms because we knew he was Bill's son, and we knew he'd be a good man, and he is. We love you, Dan. As I was driving from the airport on Tuesday to get to Como as quickly as I could, I really was kind of wondering how in the world I was going to be able to go on the air and report this. But as the day went on, it was a very soothing thing for me and a privilege for me to be able to honor Bill and Gary and to let the community know how much we love them. Now, the first picture that we had when we were finally able to identify who we lost, I was so happy to see it. Eric and I were on the air. There was his big smile, twinkle in his eye, and to me that captured the Bill Strothman that I knew. And then we showed 3 or 4 more pictures, and they all had it. Every single one of them. It's like the picture on the front of your program. That's the beardless Bill. But you can just see the warmth in those pictures that Bill always had. I was lucky to work together with him on several stories. We did a documentary together, Islands of Nature, with Sharon Howard, that was just a wonderful program. And one of the main reasons it was, as we looked at some national parks around the country, was because Bill just absolutely captured the beauty of the national parks. No matter the assignment that we were on, Bill was just an absolute pro. If we were interviewing people who were facing a hardship, he showed so much compassion. He knew how to, no matter the interview, whether it was a public figure or a family going through some difficult situation, he knew how to come in with all that cumbersome equipment. You bring it into somebody's office or house, and he knew how to kind of set it up and talk to people. And I never, ever with Bill felt like we were intruding. It was almost like were happy to welcome us in because of the way Bill just so smoothly handled everything. He and I also went on and I'm so thankful we went on a trip overseas to do a story that I had proposed about Airbus and Boeing, and Airbus always, talks so strong about how much better they are than Boeing, and we got an interview with one of their executives over there. And he didn't let us down. I mean, he was pretty harsh in his comments about Boeing. But we were done, I believe it was on a Friday afternoon, and we both wanted to get home. I know Bill wanted to get home to his family, as I did. And the station said, well, and everybody in our business knows that if you can save a little money, the station said, we can get such a cheaper airfare if you spend Saturday night in Paris. Bill and I were like, yeah, I think we might be able to do that. Okay. And I've thought a lot about those 36 hours or so that we had an all-day Saturday in Paris and Saturday night. It was just a wonderful time to get to know Bill better, and I just cherish that day and that trip entirely. Everybody, I think, at their work, most people do talk about their work family. At Como, I just think it's a closer knit family than certainly any other place I've ever worked. And we have our disputes. I mean, we have daily disagreements in our newsroom. That's the nature of the business. But there is one thing that I know I can say on behalf of all of my colleagues, and that is that we loved and will miss Bill Strothman, and we were so happy to have so many years to share with him. Thank you.
And I believe April is next.
I had the fortune to work with Bill for 17 years, 11 at Como, and 6 on video projects where I work now. He was a friend, a mentor, and a teacher, and one of the most gifted photographers I ever had the opportunity to work with. On my last day at Como, I wrote a farewell note to the newsroom of my former colleagues. And in it, I wrote, I send a special goodbye to Bill Strothman, who I've spent more time with in the last 4 years than my own family. Bill and I worked in the North Sound for 4 years. The back of a napkin math tells me that we covered more than 1,000 stories and drove more than 100,000 miles. Our office was the cab of a Ford Explorer, and you learn a lot about someone when you spend that much time within a few feet of each other. I can tell you that he wasn't ashamed to cry on a story. He was incapable of holding a grudge. His uniform was a sweater over a button-down shirt. His 3 favorite topics were Nora, Heidi, and Dan. He gave unconditionally to friends and church. He drank soy lattes, and he was a terrible speller. He saw me at my best, and he saw me at my worst. I'll never forget having a very difficult and frustrating day and starting to cry on the way to an interview with the governor. And when we arrived, I said, I don't know how I am going to do an interview looking and feeling the way that I do. And he told me, you don't have to. And with his kind smile, he said, I'll interview the governor, and you stay in the car and cry. And I did. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. He was someone that when he told you he would pray for you, he meant it. He didn't take that lightly. He was a man of principle, and his integrity did not waver even when it meant taking a difficult road, like turning down a job because it didn't support equality. He talked openly about his faith. He walked me through difficult questions about God, and he showed me by example what it means to live with purpose, grace, and humility. I was so grateful for the continued friendship that we had in the years after Como. He shot more than 100 corporate videos for us, leaving his mark on yet another place and on more lives. Making the transition from one career to another can be pretty difficult and scary, and I couldn't think of a better friend to walk through it with. I have spent the days since Tuesday going through everything that I can find of Bill, the memories, the photos, the emails, the pictures. And of all the things that I have found that Bill sent me, this is the one that I keep reading over and over. He sent it after I had thanked him for being so present and helpful to me in my life during that time of transition. He wrote, "I don't know if I told you this before, but I will always be thankful that God put me in a place where I could help you during a tough time. I am glad that God blessed you through me, but what you may not realize is how much God blessed me through you." Bill saw helping others not as a duty, but as a blessing. It is not lost on me that once again, I am addressing so many former Como colleagues, and once again, I am sending a special goodbye to Bill Strothman. Only now I realize the first time I had it wrong. I did not spend more time with him than my own family, because Bill was my family. So goodbye, my dear friend, and please know that you taught me more about friendship, faith, and integrity than any friend I've ever had.
I'll invite Ken forward now. And if Joe Siebert would be ready to come forward.
Whenever there was a lull in the conversation, my dad used to ask me random questions. Who's the nicest guy you know? Who amongst your friends has the best marriage? Who's the most beautiful woman you've ever worked with? Two of those three answers were Bill Strothman. I'll give you just a second to figure out which two. I remember the day I met Bill for the very first time. It was 1979. I was 22 years old, and I was the production assistant on a show for Como TV, a magazine show called PM Northwest. What a production assistant meant for that particular show was you carried around some very heavy gear, a tape deck, you ran audio, and you literally ran wherever the photographer wanted to take you because you were attached by a cord. The show was having some success and was expanding, and we were going to hire another production assistant. At 22 years old, I was a little threatened by this. What if the person they hired was better than me? What if they wanted to follow the same career path and somehow stepped over me? So I was prepared to dislike this guy they were bringing in, who was working at a TV station in the thriving metropolis of Medford, Oregon. And in walked this guy with bushy hair, a bushy beard, big glasses, and I was totally found it appalling how inappropriately he was dressed. Not in tennis shoes and jeans and a t-shirt, Bill had gone in the other direction, and for my money, it was completely inappropriate for him to be sporting this bad John Travolta Saturday Night Fever 3-piece suit and tie. But he didn't stop there with his fashion statement. Bill had accessorized. He was carrying a briefcase, one of those big rectangular jobs. And I'm thinking, is this guy here to sell us insurance, or is he serious about this production assistant job? So we went and had his interview with the producer of the show, and then he was brought out to interview with some of us, or actually just talk with some of us. And between being threatened by whomever took the job and his wardrobe, I was prepared to dislike this guy. Then I made a big mistake. I started talking to him. What a wonderful man. What a genuine, authentic, kind human being. By the time he left, I was rooting for him, and Bill got the job, and we became fast friends. And we talked for years after that about how he wanted to become a shooter and editor, and I wanted to become a producer. And we both got to realize those dreams and occasionally work together and collaborate. There are so many stories I could tell you about Bill's kindness, but I pick one from that same era. In the early 80s, a bunch of us were sitting around the office talking, and my one-year wedding anniversary was coming up. I wanted to do something special with my wife, but I didn't have a lot of money. I worked in TV. So some people made some suggestions, most of which I couldn't afford to do. And the next day, Bill came up to me, handed me a key and a piece of paper with an address on it. I said, "What's this?" He said, "My family has a cabin on Whidbey Island. We'd love for you to have it the weekend of your anniversary." I love that guy. Thank you.
It is such an honor to speak of Bill Strothman this afternoon. Thank you, Nora, for that opportunity. I'm a close friend and a member of this church. My wife, Linda, and I have had the indescribable pleasure of being friends with Bill and Nora now for decades. You know, when that distinction between family and friends becomes blurred, and April spoke so beautifully about that. When the distinction between family and friends becomes blurred, we know we are living blessed lives. Except for that little matter of DNA, Bill could easily have been my most cherished brother. We traveled together with Nora and with Linda, with other family and with friends, maybe nearby, maybe far away. Together we hiked mountain trails and beaches. We visited restaurants, pubs, wineries, concerts, dances, plays, cathedrals, museums. Together we talked, we laughed, sometimes we cried. But here is the thing, here is the marvelous thing. Every person here today can say the same thing. Each of us has had precious time, utterly precious and treasured time with Bill. Of all the words that describe Bill, I think the best ones for me are truth and goodness. These are words that will have very special meaning for each one of us. The journalist is such a seeker of truth. When we honor Bill, we honor his profession and his practice of compassionate journalism. Yeah, compassionate journalism. We honor the journalists here today for your efforts and your sacrifices. We know the full extent of what that can look like. Bill's friends know what his goodness. We know what his goodness looks like too. It was on display constantly in his many friendships at work, in the neighborhood, here at church. Bill was a deeply spiritual man. His faith informed his daily life, and his daily life informed his faith. Bill approached his faith with his eyes wide open, with the care and curiosity of a seasoned journalist. As Bill pursued his faith, he was central to our church life here. He was important to our communications committee, our church council, our garden guild, our fellowship committee, our worship ensemble. The list goes on and on. Bill carried out each of these jobs with total humility. Only when the microphone failed would Bill take center stage. And then, as usual, he saved the day. So today and in the days that are coming ahead of us, we pray for Nora. We pray for Heidi. We pray for Dan. We pray for Daniel and Carrie. We pray for Loretta and Dewey. We pray for all of Bill's family and Nora's. We pray for the well-being of journalists as you pursue the truth. In so many ways, we offer up our thanks today for Bill Strothman. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God for that exquisite gift.
I'm told there's one more. Toby? No, Doug Tomey. It wasn't on my list. I hope no one is missing the irony that we're having troubles with the microphone. And Bill's not here to fix it. Thank you.
Hello, Como friends. Haven't seen some of you in a long time. Good to see you. 2 stories. Both connected to the last time that I was with Bill, a month ago at Microsoft. We're shooting on the East Campus. And by we, I mean Bill and I, Pamela Woon, who worked with me at Como as part of my special projects team, Doug Irvine, and another photographer, Chris Barron, a 3-camera shoot. So we finished the shoot. And Pamela suggests that we go have lunch at a place called the Commons. I don't work at Microsoft. I don't know where it is. So Pamela texts us where the Commons is. She gives us the address. I'm parked next to Bill. I go over into my truck. I enter the address into my GPS. Bill is watching me and says, I don't need no stinking GPS. And why should he? This is Bill Strothman, the guy who's shot thousands of stories throughout the Puget Sound. He lives on the east side. He knows where he is. So I turn to him and say, great, we'll follow you. So into my GPS has already laid out the course. I can see that the Commons is about a mile away from where we are. And it's saying the trip is 3 minutes max. We leave the parking lot. Bill's first. I'm behind him. Pamela's behind me. Doug and Chris bring up the rear in a 4-car caravan. We come to a T in the road. My GPS says, go left. Bill goes right. I'm thinking, Bill must know a shortcut. Even Pamela, who works at Microsoft, follows it. She knows the Commons is right over here. So off we go to the right. I can tell you that until that day, I had never seen a loading dock at Microsoft. Trust me, they're hard to find. I'm looking at John Schoonover, who works at Microsoft. They're hard to find. Bill passes 3 of them. We take this circuitous serpentine route through previously uncharted parts of Microsoft on a trip that takes several minutes and covers several miles. And finally, Bill comes to the main road that we need to take that's going to take us over 520 and get us back towards the Commons. About 12 minutes after leaving our shooting location on a trip that was supposed to take 3 minutes, we arrive at the Commons. Go down, park. I'm the first one to get up to the lobby. I'm waiting for everybody else to get there. Finally, Bill and Pamela show up. Now, I'm standing over there like this, because I know it's coming. All of you who worked with Bill know that no one liked to laugh at himself more than Bill. So I'm standing there like this, in walks Bill, and he does the classical Bill thing. What? I got you here, didn't I? And wait for it, you all know what he said next, and I didn't need no stinking GPS. Second story. We go upstairs, have lunch, debrief. As part of our debrief process that Bill and I would do, or that Danny Eberbell and Bill and I would do for so many different projects over the years, we talked about moments, the moments that we had captured during that particular shoot. Since we had Pamela Woon and Doug Irvine and another photographer with us that day, we talked about other moments that all of us had captured in other shoots. It's a storytelling conversation that we love to have. So as we're talking about moments, we finally turn to Bill and say, so what moment do you want to talk about? And he says, the eagle story. Here's the eagle story. The setting is the North Cascades National Park, the Ross Lake overlook in the national park. Dave Ellingston's nodding his head. We know where it is. We're there shooting a documentary for KCTS 9. Beautiful fall day. We're there with 2 park rangers, 2 educators, and about a dozen kids involved in the stewardship program. So I'm doing my interview with a park ranger, and oh, by the way, I need to mention now that having shot with Bill Strothman for so many years, and I think April shares the same thing with him, I knew what Bill was doing without even looking. I could tell when he was zooming, I could tell when he was panning, I knew when we were reaching the end of a tape or a card, I just knew it. I can't explain how, but I think that all of us who work with a photographer for any length of time, we develop that intuitive, kind of telepathic relationship that is, oh, so very special. So as we're doing this interview with this park ranger, I suddenly sense that Bill is no longer shooting her and has panned the camera up. Now I know, as well as all of you who work with Bill, that that little viewfinder on the camera was only part of what he would look at. This was his viewfinder. All of this. What a gift. So as it turns out, I stop the interview and I look up to see what he's shooting, and flying right over us is a bald eagle. In a national park, talking to a park ranger. How cool is that? Bill knew at the time, as did I at the time, we could always ask the interview question again. No big deal. But how often do you get a chance in a national park talking to a park ranger to have a bald eagle flying over you? It was a classic Bill Strothman moment. And oh yes, oh by the way, we did include it in the documentary. Never ever lose sight of that kind of a moment. You know, it's been the last few days that all of us have had a real tough time with this. And my heart goes out to all of my former colleagues at Como because you guys have been up to it since last Tuesday. It's not difficult at all, folks. Even a dumb producer like me can take a camera and capture the big stuff. And you've had some big stuff to capture since last Tuesday. Any of us can do that. It's these really gifted people, like Bill, who could capture these incredibly special moments. And that takes an extraordinary gift from somebody like him who could do that. These are moments that we as storytellers live for. It's what allows us to make such a profound, powerful connection with our audiences. We live for that. And Bill was the master of capturing moments, extraordinary moments. Very human, very simple moments. Now we're all here today to celebrate one of our dear, dear friends and the profound positive impact that he's had on our lives. We're also here today to celebrate this wonderful gift of storytelling. And as I look out, there are so many other gifted storytellers here in this gathering today. Many of us have been touched by Bill, learned by Bill. And all of us who got to have Bill work on our projects to help us tell our stories, we got to share his gift with the world. And so Nora, Dan, and Heidi, on behalf of all of us who got to work with Bill, we thank you from our hearts for sharing him with us. And Bill, thank you for helping me and so many others to connect so powerfully through the art of storytelling. Thank you.